Hello, chess friends. Welcome back to our YouTube channel. In this video, we're gonna have a look at chess tactics, winning chess tactics, of course. And today's topic will be promoting a pawn. So previously, we have looked at line clearance, deflection, pin, and all kind of tactics, attraction as well. In this video, we have a look at basically, we'll have to look at puzzles where we have to promote pawns in a very instructive manner. These are very combinative in nature. So, white to play, that's the first position. You exactly know what to do, so I think that that won't be too tough for you to find the moves. White to play and win the game. By the way, in this video, I shall be showing you about 4 examples of promoting a pawn, where you can forcefully promote a pawn. Now, this might seem some of the example might seem very tough, but now that you know the topic, I think it's pretty easy. So, white to play, win the game. I'll give you 30 seconds and tell you the move. All right, here we go. White should play queen to g7. In fact, there are other moves as well that wins. Engines suggest moves like queen into e7, but I think queen g7 was actually played in the game, and this is a very clear-cut way of winning. If rook f8, avoiding to capture, then knight f6 actually simply wins the queen. He has to take, and you can see that our queen is actually guarding the h8 square, which means that h7, h8 will promote. All right, let's go back. After the move queen to g7, he can also take, but in that case, pawn takes, and now it turns out that there is no way to stop the pawn from promoting successfully. So, for example, something like here, we just promote, and white has a huge advantage over here. Bishop g5 is coming, and this is totally winning. Bishop g5, knight f6, rook f7. There are all kind of threats in this position. Basically, white is completely winning. All right, let's jump on to our next puzzle now. Puzzle number 2. Well, here is a second puzzle, and in this one, you can see black's last move was blocking the check somehow. I don't know where the queen was, but the queen came over here and blocked the check on g5, thinking that the rook endgame, for example, after the queen exchange, thinking correctly that the rook endgame is actually a draw, which it is, of course. But it turns out that there was no rook endgame thanks to a pawn over here. So, white to play, win the game, find the move that white played over here, and finish the game in style. All right, rook h7. There is no rook endgame. After this, it's gone. If king takes, this is basically forced. If king takes, then we just take the queen and we look at the promoting square, absolutely winning. Going back in this position, rook takes also possible. Now I just grab the queen. Again, promote to a queen, and this is again too much in white's favor. White is completely winning. We are gonna start grabbing these pawns, the rook. Of course, with an exposed king, there is no chance of black holding a draw. A draw can only be made with the rook against a queen in a position where the king at least is a little bit secure. Of course, here he's totally exposed. At the same time, we have an extra pawn and the king, which will soon advance in the game, will create more troubles for black. Absolutely winning. In fact, the engines are going plus 60, plus 70, or mate in something something. So it's 100% winning. All right. Jumping on to our next example number 3. Black to play and win. Again, promotion of pawn. Whenever the pawn advances, it turns out that every single piece wants to help the pawn to promote. And that's why Nimzowitsch rightly called that a passed pawn is a criminal which should be held with a lock and key and should not be allowed to push forward. So, black to play, win the game. How do we win the game? Which is, of course, your extra pawn on c3 is blockaded over here. How do we win? How do we escape from that position? So, black to play and win. All right, the simple key is to exchange major pieces. Once you do that, it's pretty simple. So exchange the rooks, exchange the queens, and that's all. Then the pawn will promote in 2 moves. As this is a dark square, the bishop won't be able to help. How do we do this? Well, knight to g3 is the first move. Of course, if king goes over here, then take the rook. That's winning. So of course he has to take, and now comes queen to f6 check. Again, the put blocking with the bishop is doesn't make sense. We just take it. Going king to g1 again doesn't make sense because captures, winning material anyway, winning the game. So in this game, after queen f6, queen f2 was played, and here you have to be very precise not to capture the queen immediately. Let me just show you. Takes, and when you take over here, takes and push the pawn. The problem is king d2, And that's the reason the capture has to be very precise. First, you take the rook. Once the king tries to go towards your pawn, you bring him back by capturing on f2. The king is far away. The difference between both the variation was, in the last variation the king was on e1, now it's on f2, which makes the entire difference. In fact, f2, it turns out that there is no way to stop the pawn. This pawn can always be stopped, and no matter what you do, for example, this promote here, just go beside and sit beside him, or maybe just check. There's no need for anything else. Just check, and you pick up this pawn. This pawn is loose, and we have extra pawns. Totally winning for black. All right, let's jump on to our last two examples. So here you go. It's white to play, win the game. It's a very interesting one, and it's pretty simple because you know where the passed pawn is. It's on h6. The rest of the mechanism is pretty simple. So white to play, win the game. All right, here comes the combination. Bishop to f7 first. It's a check. Of course, the king has to keep protecting the queen. Can't really go away because then we just eat the queen. So of course, just here, you take the queen. And the point is, you release your pawn from the lock and key, which Nimzowitsch mentioned. You just take the pawn on g6. This cannot be captured, by the way. It's a bishop sacrifice which cannot be captured because the pawn goes wrong color bishop. And even if it was the right color bishop, it still is unable to stop the pawn. And of course, in this position, you can also try, let's say, over here. But then you just take here, get your bishop back. And now it's pretty simple. This is basically a barrier, an invisible barrier. Next few moves are very simple. Just f4, g4, advance your king and try to get towards this pawn over here. And basically with black king stuck protecting the queening square, this is pretty much one-sided. Or the entire game is one-sided. Of course, we are gonna get more connected pawns over here with the move f4, g4, and g5. There'll be two connected passed pawns which will be totally protected. At the same time, these pawns are very easily manageable. So white in this position is totally winning in the long run. But of course, this was a beautiful combination that I wanted to show you. Now here comes the last example, and last but not the least, this is a really beautiful one. Here you go. It's white to play, win the game, and this example will tell you why many of the top players, or most of the players, strong players, prefer bishops over knights. Knights are really bad at some things. Handling rook spawns is one of the things, and of course, it does not cover the squares just beside it. Just that the adjacent squares are not covered by the knight. It can control a wide range of area, but not the square beside it, which makes it very vulnerable. So white to play, win the game. It's very simple. I think most of you might have already guessed it. So here comes the beautiful idea. First of all, let's deflect the queen on c2. So you play rook takes b2. That is deflected. Of course, otherwise you win material, of course. If he doesn't take, you just take over here, win more material. So he has to capture. Now comes a beautiful move. Queen sacrifice. Queen takes on c8. A wonderful move. Basically, if you don't take again, I'm gonna just capture. I'm gonna start pushing. This is totally winning for white. Simply based on material, of course. So this has to capture. This has to be captured. And now comes the move. Pawn to d7. It turns out that there is no way to stop the pawn. Let's say you go queen c3, queen c2. Then I don't even need to, for example, then I don't capture the knight, but rather go forward and promote. And that is the way you win. And let's say you try to go over here, trying to protect the queening square, but then I take the knight. You can see the pawn has two different possibilities which the queen cannot cover. And of course, the knight is helpless in such kind of situations because knight on the rim is dim, as most of us know. And this is winning a lot of material, extra bishop, extra rook, and the pawns don't really count because they're going to drop very soon. Let's just show me this, just this, and you're going to pick up this one. This is weak, it's loose. It can be attacked very easily with this and this. Absolutely bad position, and with an exposed king again, it's hopeless for black even to continue from here. So these were the examples. These were great examples of promoting a pawn. Hope you love these tactical ideas and learn something out of it. Thank you for watching, and do subscribe to my YouTube channel. More videos are on the way.